بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب. Thank you for coming out on a Thursday night to Northwestern University. Did you guys enjoy the two reflections thus far? So I'm only going to ask 2 questions because we really want a lot of time for audience interaction. And my role is going to simply be to reflect out what was shared by our esteemed guests and scholars, Imam Zaid, Shakir, and Shaykh Omar Sulaiman. I have utmost respect for both of them, and I think what was really unique is Shaykh Omar was sitting there listening to Imam Zaid, and I thought it was really funny that you said, well, throughout my speech, once Imam Zaid started speaking, but your reflection I thought was really valuable, so thank you for building on what Imam Zaid shared out. So both of you spoke a little bit about this idea of nurture, and that, Imam Zaid, you mentioned that when Malcolm was little, he was nurtured. He was nurtured by his family, and then, also Shaykh Omar, you mentioned that as well, that there were different people in the community that they both looked up to. So, as I was thinking about what you were saying, one of the first things as a chaplain I started to think about, because that is essentially the role of a chaplain, right? It comes from Latin to cloak someone. And oftentimes I find that in the community, as people are trying to grow in their own passion and strive towards becoming the best that they can in the different fields that you mentioned, that you have to be passionate in whatever it is that you're pursuing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of crushing of the soul happening within the Muslim community, where if someone is really passionate about a particular field, and let's just say perhaps something of the performing arts, for example, there is a lot of struggle that they are put up against within just the Muslim community, because I think the American Muslim community is really trying to define who they are and what they are, and we have some big questions even around authority. So I'm wondering if you can both reflect a little bit about how many young Muslims are often, they want to pursue their dreams, but they are subject to a lot of critique, and internally from their own families, but then also from their peers. And the question I often get, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, is, oh, well, I don't think you're allowed to do this. Or if they are allowed to do it, there's always this critique of, can a woman be this or not? Or can so-and-so perform this or not? And so even Bilqis, said a few things about that yesterday. So just wanted to see if you had some advice to the audience about how do we not crush each other in that, the striving towards building that sense of passion and really encouraging each other.
Bismillah. I think there's a lot in that question. It's a very good question, and I don't want to do injustice to the question, but really answering that question thoroughly would take a very long time. I think it would take this entire session. So what I would say is, number one, we shouldn't always see opposition as something negative. We should see it as creating a tension that helps us to try to understand what are the parameters established by the divine law. So as a Muslim, I'm not unfettered. I don't do what I want, when I want, how I want. I try to do what I believe God wants of me, and I try to do that which is pleasing to God. And so having that as a check on my actions isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it creates a tension, and tension is necessary for growth. So that's the first thing, and that requires a whole and entire conversation in and of itself. Now, those barriers, those things that crush dreams, those are very real. And so, leaving aside what I just said, what I mentioned, if we understand that what I'm doing can lead to a healthy outcome, and that outcome is pleasing to God, then I have to forge on, regardless of the support or the lack thereof that I find in the community. Because, that's the pioneering spirit. So a lot of things that we're trying to do, they're new in terms of what Muslims have historically engaged in, performing arts or cinematography or whatever. They're new. And in that sense, whoever's engaging in them is a pioneer to greater or lesser extents. And a pioneer has to be prepared to deal with difficulties and challenges that those who come after him or her will not have to deal with. So if you're in the jungle and you're cutting the path and you're being bitten by tarantulas and you're threatened by poisonous vipers and you're falling into the quicksand, just to build and chopping things with your machete and you're battling malaria and yellow fever, you have challenges and difficulties and hardships that won't be experienced by those coming after you. Now you've made the road and they're walking on that smooth road, but they'll never have the satisfaction that you have, that you will have as a pioneer.